Before we get into the substance of episode 4, I want to give you a quick trigger warning. In this episode, we are discussing the challenges that come with being the caregiver for your parents and also death and grief. So, just want to make sure everybody's aware before they continue listening.
Hey there, winos! Welcome to this episode of Whine with HR. In our, let's say, effort to keep things real like we have been this season, Julie and I have a very special episode for you, a very sad episode for you, focusing on bereavement. And I'm going to leave it to Julie to tell you why we have decided to focus on this topic today. So, Jules, you want to share?
Yes, I'd be happy to. But first, I think we need to talk about our wine because I need some to be able to tell people we're doing this episode.
Fair, fair. All right. We can do that.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to start with the wine because we're going to need it. So I am drinking today a dry Riesling from France. It's called, I actually don't know how to pronounce this, but I'm going to think that it's a Solche. It's an appellation Alsace Controle. My French is not.
That's your Italian jumping in.
I know. I can't separate the two now. But anyway, this is it's a dry Riesling from France. It is floral with scents of lime and apple. This crisp dry wine is fruity and well structured with mineral undertones. So you can guess that's why I chose it. Yes. It is very nice. Hold on, let me taste it again. You can really taste the apple, which is really interesting to me because that's not a fruit that is often used in wine, except for like Sauvignon Blancs with the like green apple, crispy, sort of thing. But it's also, you can definitely taste those mineral undertones. So far, I like it. What about you? What are you drinking?
Well, I have to make a journey when we're done recording today. So I am on a single beer because I do not ever drink and drive. And so I am hardcore repping Southwest Michigan today. I am doing a Bell's Hazy Hearted IPA. You know I love IPAs, and of course I love everything and all things hazy. And so when we were at the store the other day, we noticed that they had, instead of Two Hearted, which is one of my favorite IPAs, they had Hazy Hearted, and it is absolutely delicious. And of course, in continuing to rep our Southwest Michigan, I'm drinking it out of a Hopcat glass.
Nice.
So yeah, right? Just cannot beat that. Two of my favorite things. Great restaurant, great beer. So obviously very, very happy with this.
Is it citrusy and does it taste like spring?
It does to me.
Uh-huh. I know it's like 65 degrees out right now or something crazy. So it's lovely.
Yeah, we hit 67 up here today.
Ooh, that's impressive.
Yeah. We're already down to like 50, but you know.
Yeah. Okay. So as Trisha and I have been keeping it real, this has been a very difficult month, and my mother passed away on Saturday. So, as I said in a Jewels of Wisdom post not too long ago, life just keeps on moving, and we had to record an episode. And so we decided to just talk about the toll that grief and bereavement takes on your employees and just some of our perspectives, because as you know, both Trish and I have been in the caregiving role for quite some time with both of our parents. We are in that sandwich generation, Gen X in particular, and it can be really, really challenging. And it has just given me a new perspective on what life is about, number one, but also just the way that, especially in America, employers have been conditioned to treat their employees and work, like how we view work in America. And we make it the central part of everything. And that can make life really difficult when life is really difficult. And part of the reason that Trisha's making a journey is because she's one of my best friends and she's coming to calling hours tomorrow for my mom, because she knew my mom well. So this is a really, this is prompted by a really sad episode in my life. But I also think it's a really important thing for us to talk about.
So one of the things that we want to talk to you about is not just our personal experiences, obviously what we're going through, because it's cathartic, and it's, if you're out there dealing with something similar, knowing that, as Julie and I have said before, you are not alone. It is always good to know that, oh, someone else is dealing with this, and there is someone out there that I can talk to or I can reach out to. But also, you need to be able to support your employees, whether you are HR or a manager. So we're going to talk to you guys about different types of leave that you can give, what those policies might look like. We're going to talk to you also about if you are a person coming back from leave, if you are the person who has lost someone, some things you can do when you return to work. So a lot of things to get to today, and it's going to be a tearjerker. I already have tears.
Well, and I also want to say to all of our listeners, first of all, thank you again for listening. But, I have met some of our listeners in person now, and they feel like friends. And I've actually become friends with many of our listeners. And I know some of them are going through the same thing that we are right now, you and I, Trisha. And I love that we have this community where we can just be real and talk about, yes, a lot of what I probably am going to focus on today, because of course things have been crazy and I haven't really had time to. Trisha did all the research for this episode and she kind of put everything together, and I'm just here to share my thoughts. But I also think that that's where it all starts, right? Is somebody has a personal experience and they look at things differently and they start to think about, well, what if we change this? What if we did this? What if we could just make this change or make this small tweak? How much better would our employees be if we could just do that for them? And so I think that that's part of this conversation. It's things to start thinking about that you might not be able to implement right away. But even if you can just get people to think about things differently, that can be an important first step to getting to where we have a workplace environment where employees feel more supported during these difficult times in their lives.
And one of the ways that you can do this is simply letting your employees know that you're there to support them. Obviously, you're going to express your condolences, and I know that that can be difficult. It's hard to know exactly what to say to someone, especially if you weren't as close as maybe you are to some of your other coworkers. But the very first thing is letting them know you support them and that you care for them as a person. Like, yes, of course, the work is important. The what you are going to have to do to cover their work is important. But honestly, that isn't the most important thing to express to them first and foremost. It's and you can do this without any policies, without anybody else in your organization being a part of that. Listen to what Julie's saying. It really is that knowing that things have changed and seeing that that change needs to be there and letting them know, hey, we're gonna try and make things easier on you. I don't know how exactly we're gonna do that, but we're working in that direction.
Yeah, and also just saying, checking in on somebody. And I think this is what I've learned with grief, going through it with my father first 12 years ago now, and now my mom, is, the first month after someone dies, there is so much that you have to do. You have to make the funeral arrangements. You have to have the funeral, the calling hours, the burial, all of those types of things. And then if you do have to do things with their house or their estate or things like that, like the first month, you have a lot of stuff to keep you really, really busy. But then there's like this lull, and all of the cards have stopped, all of the flowers have stopped, all of the check ins have stopped because people go on with their lives, and that's totally understandable. But if you can remember that that happens, and it's like at that month and 2 months and 3 months, that those check ins are so important because they're not happening really anymore at that point.
Sorry, just wiping a tear. One of the links that I am going to include in the show notes today, there is, it's navigating grief for the workplace. It's from the Jordan Institute for Families out of UNC. It is their School of Social Work. And one of the things that's in there, it's a short, maybe 1 to 2 page, but it has this, what you do directly after a loss, during the first 6 to 12 months, and then beyond the first year or any time. So what Julie is saying is 100% true. And if you have lost someone, or if you've talked to someone who's lost someone, you know that that is exactly right. Everybody is there. It's very, very busy. It's almost overwhelming, I would say, for the first week to 3 weeks, to maybe even the first month. But after that, it's like Julie said, everybody has moved on, and we're still sitting there deep in the loss. You pick up the phone wanting to call that loved one or something like that. So we, as people, need to be prepared, but we as employers also need to be prepared and understand that grief is a journey, and it doesn't happen overnight. Someone's not just going to be better, and they may seem better, and then all of a sudden they may have a moment. So we will include a link to this just to kind of remind you to check in, and also, of course, use those EAPs. Your employee assistance programs are going to be one of your best resources, or your employees' best resources.
Yeah, and there's also the circumstances around the person's death also come into play, right? So that's going to make a big difference for people. In this particular case, my mother was 89 years old. She lived a very full life. She had told us, a week before she died, approximately a week before she died, that she was done and she was ready to go be with my dad. And she was very adamant about that. Her body didn't quite get the memo quite as quickly as, we would have liked. But um, so we had time to prepare. And we also, again, I think there is a difference when somebody has lived a long, full life. If it is unexpected, if it is quick, if it is a complicated relationship, I often think those are really, really challenging losses. Yes, I'm still feeling this loss and I'm going to feel it for a long time, but I had time to make peace with it. And again, she lived a long, full life. So it's sort of like we knew it was coming, and it's a blessing in the end. But a lot of people suffer losses that are not that way. Or they had a complicated relationship with the person, and that makes it really tough. So then, I think part of the other thing, and Trisha, I'm sure you found an article that talked about this, but you want to tread lightly on how you approach somebody. I think the best thing to say is, how are you doing? Not necessarily like, oh, well, your loved one is at peace, or I'm sure you have memories to look back on, or, good memories to look back on. Well, we don't know that that's true. and an employee may not be comfortable sharing that information. So it's one of those things where you want to show that you're there to support them, but you also want to do it in a way, especially if you don't know the circumstances, where it's about them, not the relationship or the narrative around the loss that we tend to put on them. Like we like to think when somebody dies, it's all like it was just all love, but that's not always the case. So we need to be gentle about how we approach people.
I have some stats, Jules, that go right along with what you were just saying. 37% of employees are impacted by the loss of a family member or friend annually. 79% of employees considered quitting their jobs after a personal loss, and 90% experience anxiety along with their grief while dealing with administrative burdens. So, exactly what you were talking about a little bit earlier. But those come from, by the way, empathy.com. Again, we'll have a link. But I thought that those were pretty sobering stats when you think 79% of employees consider quitting. But it goes to what you were saying earlier. I think it is the lack of support. It's the we are so work centered as a society. We don't think about what other people need beyond the words. And I think that you also made a very good point when you started talking about relationships. I just went to a celebration of life for a 52-year-old woman yesterday, and it was complicated. And there was a lot of grief, a lot of questions, a lot of, and you could tell that there was some discomfort having the conversations. And I thought, what can I do? What can I do? And it was just, I'm here if you need me. You have a ton of people around you right now, but if I've moved home, so if you need me, reach out. And I think that exactly like you said, you and I are very fortunate. We have these amazing relationships with our parents, and it is easy as people like us to forget that other people may not have those relationships. And so it's a good reminder for us and for everyone just to say, you know what? Focus on the person. I think that that was brilliant. And no, I didn't find that in any of my research. That was all you.
Well, and I also think, the 79%, I can completely identify with that because losing my dad was part of what prompted me to start Monarch. I think I've told that story before, and it wasn't, yes, part of it was I was tired of the job that I was in, but another part of it was that just losing somebody really important in your life or suffering a big loss changes the way you look at life. And I knew that I just didn't want my life to keep being the way that it was. And so I started looking for other things. So it wasn't necessarily the specific job. Like it wasn't that I hated my law firm. It was just I knew that that wasn't the way I wanted to spend the rest of my days, because you do sort of have these aha moments where you're like, yeah, tomorrow's not promised. So I got to figure out how I want to spend the rest of my days. And that was part of what we alluded to at the beginning of this, is that we are so work centered that we make work the focus of everything. Trisha and I were talking before the show about, I don't know how I would have done this if I was working a quote unquote real job. Like I work for myself. So, I have a lot of flexibility. I mean, sometimes my boss is a real a-hole, but, um, most of the time I have a lot of flexibility. But like I
I
wouldn't have been
totally
able,
agree. My boss is a real
right,
jerk too.
right. I know, right. But like I was able to take the last week off to be with my mom. I'm able to take this week off, to be here for the funeral and all of the things. I was able to come home and spend a week with my mom when she was in the hospital. Like, I've been able to be really flexible about that. Again, if I had a quote unquote real job, I would have been out of FMLA by this point. I probably would have been out of PTO, and I would have just been even more stressed out because one of the things that is really difficult when you're a caregiver is that you feel guilty no matter where you're at. So if you're with your parent, you feel guilty that you're not doing all the other things that you should be doing in your life. But if you're not, if you're out doing all the other things you're supposed to be doing in your life, then you feel guilty about not being with your parent. So there's like there's a whole lot of emotions that go into it. And that can make for a very, very stressed employee. And so, the typical things that we have, like most bereavement policies are 5 days for a parent, 3 days for anyone else, and we don't know. This has always been my beef with bereavement policies, and I'm pretty sure I talked about it on a previous episode, but who are we to decide who is important to our employees?
I'd like to add an amen to that. I mean,
You
that
know,
was really a mic drop moment. Yes. I know people that are closer to their in laws than they are to their own parents. And then, of course, I know people that can't stand their in laws too. Whatever. That's normal, I guess, supposedly. I love mine. I'm very lucky. But you're absolutely correct. I mean, what if it's an aunt that helped to raise them? What if it's a grandmother? What if it's a best friend who was always there to support them through everything? I don't think that we should, as an organization or as organizations, be able to say who. But
right.
I feel the same way about FMLA. I've always said that too. It's someone's time. If they want to use it for that person, if that person is that important to them, then let them use it. It's their
Right.
time.
Right.
So,
Agreed. Agreed. That was your mic drop. But no, for example, I have three nieces, and my mother was, as they've all said, the most important person in their life. But they don't get any, they might get a couple of days of bereavement, but they couldn't take FMLA. So they, came after work and spent the night, and it's lovely to see on the one end, but on the other end, you're like, why do we do this to people? Like, why has work become the thing that defines us, that is the most important thing? It's not. In the grand scheme of things, as I always used to say when I was working at a law firm, I don't want my gravestone to say she billed her 1,800 hours a year, but she never, spent time with anybody. God, she loved, that's not what life is about. And I think, particularly in America, because we have this go, go, go culture and this 40-hour work week, and this, 40 hours is the minimum work week, that kind of, we just have this work, work, work culture that we don't appreciate that life sometimes is just a lot. And we, if we have good employees, I'm not saying you just give everybody a pass, but if you have good employees and they need some accommodations during a difficult period of time, we should give it to them. And yes, I can hear everybody, and I get it. I'm a lawyer. I can hear my own lawyer brain saying, but then everybody will take advantage of it. But as we said in that, I don't know which episode, so we'll find it and put it in the show notes. But in that episode last season, stop making your policies for the 10% who abuse them and start making them for the 90% who don't. Because 90% of your employees are still showing up every day, even though they're grieving. They're still showing up. They're trying to do their best. They're burned out, and you're going to lose them at some point. 79% have thought about quitting because of a loss. And a lot of that is because number one, I'm going to, you might have to bleep this out, Brenna, fair warning. They're done with the bullshit and they're stressed out, they're burned out, and they're not getting the support they need.
100% agree. So I'm going to reference something else that I found that kind of goes with what Julie and I were just talking about. And again, some of this is a little different than what we said. This is from Fisher Phillips. I don't know anything about Fisher Phillips that really, but I know that I liked their discussion on benefits. And one of the things that they talked about is broad coverage, but they also said to clearly define who is covered, which kind of made me giggle because you're contradicting yourself in that sentence. But they did say that you could, hey, think about including close friends and non-familial ties. So I think more people are starting to move towards our way of thinking. A couple of other things that they said, though, that I think are really important to discuss, even though it's not what is Julie and my focus at the moment, pregnancy related grief. So
Mhm.
someone who loses a pregnancy, this is devastating. And if you have ever known anyone who has had a miscarriage or been through maybe a failed in vitro or something like that, this is also very hard on the heart, hard on the emotions. So think about could you include something like that in your policy? Maybe including an additional special type of PTO. I don't understand exactly what they're talking about here. Again, this one, I didn't read the PTO one because I was like, yeah, but now I see they're like talking about PTO and coping with grief, but maybe thinking about increasing your PTO, I guess overall is what they're saying. But there are two that I focused on other than the ones I mentioned. One was the flexible work arrangements. I thought this was a really great idea. If you can't offer as much time, or if you have an employee who maybe doesn't have a lot of PTO, is it possible for you to create some sort of a flexible work arrangement for them as they are dealing with all of these things? Like Julie said, it's not just the death itself. It's dealing with the estate, it's closing things, there's just so much more to this is going to sound weird, but there's just so much more to dying than the dying itself. And yeah, so think about, could you allow them to reduce their hours, have different hours, maybe take a different shift, work remotely? What can you offer this person to help them? And then I have to throw this in because they have it, and I am a pet owner, so is Julie. They even say, don't forget about pet bereavement. For some of us who don't have children, our pets are like our children. And so thinking about maybe offering pet bereavement as well. And I think some of the other ones that they've mentioned, we really have already talked about, but they do a great reminder of don't forget to check your state laws because even though, from the federal perspective, you may not have to offer anything under the FLSA, your state law or even family medical leave laws in your particular state may require you to offer specific things.
I love all of those, the pet bereavement in particular, but also the pregnancy related
Right?
bereavement, because yes,
That one hit me hard.
yep, we've all had friends who have suffered miscarriages or just failed IVF. I shouldn't say just, I didn't mean it that way, but failed IVF, whatever the situation may be. Um, and that is also societally something we don't talk about. So that makes it doubly hard because oftentimes people don't even know somebody suffered that loss because they haven't told anybody yet. So that can be a very cumulative sort of loss. So yeah, so the other thing I just want to talk about is like some signs that your employees may need help if they are grieving. But even if you don't know they're grieving, so like in a situation where somebody may have a pregnancy related loss, they may never have told anybody. But some typical signs that somebody is grieving is a lack of focus or productivity, social withdrawal, behavioral change. So, one of the ones that I know I have experienced and I've seen a lot of other people display is irritability. They just like they're done because your grief takes up so much space, and a lot of times we try to bury it because we have to get on with life. And so when you bury it, it comes out in other ways. And a lot of times that's like a short fuse. So if you see somebody who is more irritable than they used to be, it might be grief. That could be a reason.
And that
Attendance
could come
issue.
from
Oh, oh,
caregiving. Not
oh,
to
one.
interrupt, but I just want to throw
No,
that out there
yes.
as I know I have a fuse that's about maybe an eighth of an inch long right
Yeah.
now. That could come from caregiving as well. So for your employees who are caregivers, realize that they're also, it's a different type of grief, but they
Yeah.
are grieving as well.
No, that was very important because you are 100% right. And there's a whole other, we could do a separate episode on that. There's a whole other uh, realm of emotions that go along with caregiving because you're also, as much as you want to be there for your parents and you want them to stay as long as they can, there's also this like, how long am I going to have to keep this up? Right? Because one person can only sustain so much. And even if you have help, like I have two sisters and we've all been very involved with all of it, but even for the three of us, it's been challenging at times, you know. So, and Trisha is not so lucky. Yes, she has a loving brother, but he's states away, so she's mostly the help there. So that can all be really challenging as well. So, if you see some of these signs, I think a lot of times we, as employers, have a tendency to jump to the conclusion that this person just doesn't care anymore. So I think a good first question, you know, always is, are you okay? Is something going on? You don't seem like yourself. And start the question off there because you're likely to get, number one, a truer response. But number two, to get to the heart of the matter faster so you can figure out how to support this employee and how to get them through whatever it is that's going on.
I absolutely love that. I think that that is a question we forget to ask people. What do you need from me? You know that one of my favorite questions for even on a good day is, how can I help you? What can I do for you? I'll steal this from my friend in Indiana who I met in Chicago. How can I help you succeed today? And it's just a different shift of that same question. What can I do? What do you need from me to make this easier? And I yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
Hey Jules, one
Well,
of the things, oh, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, I also think, you know, we've been talking about when an employee suffers a loss. But I wanted to also mention because when I when people started finding out what had happened with my mother, I had somebody who I just newly connected with that were going to be on a leadership team together. And she said that the day after I just saw her, her boss died unexpectedly. And so, you know, there's another whole other level, which of course we're not going to have time to delve into completely. But when somebody at your workplace dies,
That's exactly where I was going. I guess great minds.
yes, yes. But
Yep.
so, you know, whether it's an employee or a boss, you know, with a boss, there's going to be extra levels of things. And again, we may have to devote a different episode to that. But if somebody at work, at the workplace dies, you really need to provide even more support to people. Because again, one of the things that I've learned with my mother passing is that you really don't know how someone impacted someone else until after they're gone, oftentimes. And sometimes you never may know, but you don't know what impact that person had on the rest of your employees. So you want to be really sensitive to that if somebody at the workplace dies. And you want to make sure that you are providing counseling services and the EAP, as Trisha mentioned, and that, if it is somebody who's in a leadership role, that even if you don't have a plan in place right away, you at least get everybody together and say, we're going to figure this out. If you guys have some ideas about how we can cover things in the meantime, let's talk about that. Like, as we've said with so many other things, get people involved, to get the people who are most impacted involved in the solution. Because number one, they're probably going to know more than you, right? And number two,
For sure.
the thing that people want to do in a situation where somebody dies is they want to help. And oftentimes, the person suffering the loss, when you ask them, what can I do? They're like, I don't know, because they don't have the bandwidth to think about that. But in an organization, that's your job as HR and as leadership, is to figure out, well, what do we do? And if you can get employees involved in that, that gives them a way to help and an outlet for some of that grief that will be productive for them, but also help the organization at the same time.
I really, really love that. One of the things that I want to tell everybody is that insperity.com article that we're going to link to does have some really good tips in it for communicating with your team and really just helping your employees understand what's going on, encouraging them to talk, but also, again, speaking with the family and making sure that you're honoring the family's wishes as well. They may not need all of the information, and I understand that sometimes that can be stressful for your employees, but at the same time, we have to respect people. We have to respect their wishes, their rights, and so letting them know that this has happened obviously is one thing. Working through it, like Julie said, the best way to have them work through it in a situation where they don't get all of the details is by having them be able to provide this kind of information and structure for the team. Oh, well, this is how we do this. This is how we do this. Let me suggest this. And it is a way to allow them to grieve. But I think that I would also say you want to monitor those employees to make sure that it's enough. Because for some people, like Julie said, you may not know the impact that that person really had on them, especially if they were maybe a mentor that wasn't part of your mentor-mentee relationship or your program. If you didn't know that there was some sort of relationship like that. So keep an eye out for people. Make sure that you are watching for those signs when everybody else is kind of switching towards more of a normal kind of day-to-day workflow. Do you sense some distress? Is there something going on? Is something, just like Julie said, it's just not quite right. So keep your eye out for that and make sure you're supporting those employees.
I think that's great advice. I think another good thing to do would be, if somebody uh, from your organization has passed, maybe again, after that month period, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, maybe have a get together where you just share stories,
I love
you know,
that.
or you just have an opportunity to get people together and let the conversation kind of flow organically, but give them some space to be with one another and share their grief or their memories, or whatever, because that part of it is really important too. And hopefully they can find some laughter in there, because I certainly feel like if you can find a way to laugh, that makes everything better. We had some funny moments. So I'm just going to share one real quick, and then we'll wrap things up. But so there was one moment, again, my mother had decided she was done. She was very adamant about it. She said, I'm done. I'm tired. I just want to go be with your dad. And so we, over the next couple of days, there was one moment where uh, she had fallen asleep, and she was pretty alert that day. There were some days where she was pretty out of it and sleeping most of the day, but this particular day she had been very alert that morning. All of us girls were there. We're a family of women. She's the matriarch, so all of us women were there. My two sisters and I, and my three nieces. And so we're sitting around, and she fell asleep for a little bit, and she wakes up and she looks a little, like disoriented. And so one of my nieces says, "It's okay, Grandma, we're still here." And again, she had told us she was done and ready to be with my father. So she looks at us and she goes, "So am I." Like when she opened her eyes, she was like, "Damn it. These are not the people I was hoping to see."
Oh, I love your mom.
I know. So anyway, okay. So cheers to my mom.
Cheers to mom.
Cheers to mom. And I know, again, not surprising because I've been drinking more of it, but I haven't gotten through one glass, so it's not like I'm downing it. I really do and like this wine. It's very good, and it looks like it was established in 1680. I just saw. That's crazy. This is a 2023, but the winery. So that's really awesome. I really love it.
Please take a
like
picture of that one for me.
I will. We're going to eventually get a list together of all the wines we've tried and put them on our website. Oh, which we have a Wine with HR website now. So that's going to be in the show notes. So you should go check it out.
Yay.
All right. Final thoughts, Trish, and your wine.
Well, it's a hazy IPA.
Sorry, your beer.
I mean, way to go, Bells. As usual, you nailed it. Yeah, this is, if you like hazy IPAs, I mean, look at this cloudiness, Jules. Do you see that?
It's very hazy.
It's so pretty. And yeah, quite delicious. So yeah, if you're an IPA drinker, highly, highly recommend it.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for being with us and supporting us during these challenging times in 2026 thus far. So we appreciate it. We feel your love. We really, really, really are grateful for our listeners. So if you have thoughts about, things that you might want to suggest to your company about bereavement policies or thoughts in general, we have our wine@monarchendeavorsllc.com email. You can always email us. You can email us with wine recommendations, all the things. We want to hear from you. We are going to try to be more active with our Facebook page. We've sucked at it, we know, but we're going to get there. And Trisha has something else she wants to say.
I just wanted to remind you all that your employees may be grieving other things. As other than the death of maybe someone who is close to them right now. So remember, we're in some very challenging times. There are people are grieving many different things, many different types of loss. So please take this conversation today and expand on it. It obviously for Jules and I, this is our focus, but we are very aware that other people are losing other things or maybe suffering in different ways. So take this conversation and use it where you can to be good humans and empathetic.
Yes, be kind. Don't be a dick.
Cheers.
Cheers.